Okay, so let's say you've got a great idea for the next startup. You have the perfect idea in your mind. You want to make an email marketing system. You want to make the next big thing. Okay, so you've probably found out that it isn't so easy to develop a SaaS app. So there are a lot of components. You need to build out the infrastructure. You need to make it scalable. You need to pick up servers and everything else. So this is just a short introductory video where I will explain to you what are the main key points you need to take into consideration when developing a SaaS app, and how you can do it. Like, this is a very high overview of some good practices that I have used that worked in building a SaaS app. So there are a few main key points you need to take into consideration, right? You can't just build the app thinking about it 100% technical. You also need to take into consideration marketing, SEO. How is this all going to interact? So the main key points to take into consideration are SEO, flexibility, scalability, pricing, and marketing. So how would we start? Let's say you have a bunch of users that are trying to access your website over the internet, right? You have a lot of servers. You have maybe a JavaScript website. I don't know, it's Angular, React, whatever. And then you have your first problem. How are people going to find your website? So of course there is some SEO on JavaScript. It's completely doable, but you will get worse results. It will be much harder, and you will be focusing on areas you shouldn't be focusing. So to make this work, like, first you have two entry points. You have your main website, which is www.yourwebsite.com.io, whatever. And then you have an app.website, a subdomain. It doesn't have to be app, it can be anything. Why this? Because on your main website, on your landing page, which is this here, you want to optimize as good as possible for marketing and SEO. So you would probably use WordPress or some other out-of-the-box solution which offers you this flexibility. You can of course create a blog with JavaScript that integrates with your main SaaS app, but that will cost you a few months of development, and your results will probably be worse than using just WordPress. So let's say you have here your website running on WordPress. You have all the required plugins, you have everything optimized for SEO, you have your blog there, you have your structured landing page and everything that the user sees. Then when a user sees your landing page, and let's say they want to create an account, they want to log in or whatever, then they get redirected to this subdomain, the app.website.com. And this is where your SaaS applies, your frontend. This can be a React, JavaScript, it can be a PHP application, whatever. That's where the main logic, the main SaaS app, everything lies in. So the next thing for a startup is, right, we need flexibility, scalability, and we want to build it cheap, especially when starting something new. So, and there is also a lot of fuss about microservices lately. So there is a reason for using microservices. Let's say you're using AWS, right? You can just create a bunch of Lambda functions, EC2 instances that each do a specific task. So let's say you have an EC2 instance with a microservice. It can be your payment service, that's connected with Stripe or whatever. The next microservice can be something critical to the SaaS app. The next microservice can represent your user management system or whatever, right? They can of course have their own database, or they can use a shared database. Since we are in the cloud, my approach would be, unless you're running a highly scalable system with a high complexity, to use just DynamoDB, let's say, as a NoSQL database, which takes care of all the replication, which takes care of all the things you would need to consider when doing this manually, right? Of course, you can have multiple databases and multiple microservices communicating with those databases, right? So the main advantage of this is, okay, as you are growing, you can just add new microservices. Of course, multiple microservices can run on the same server. You don't need a separate server for a separate microservice, but this is just an example. Let's say you're running Docker on each of those microservices, and you run 10 containers of the first microservice on the first server, 10 containers of the second on the second server, and so on. This is just a possible, very simple solution to make it more understandable. Then, for example, you decide, okay, you're getting a lot of users, I want to expand, I want to add an analytics service. I could use something out of the box, I could build my own analytics service, and so on. As my users scale, I can also scale my servers, either increase their capacity or add new servers to support the increased capacity. So basically, it can be started for free. Let's say you're using AWS, you can use DynamoDB. You have, I think, 25 write and read capacity units for free. So that's more than enough to support a simple application and a few users. You can have one T2 micro EC2 instance for free, and so on. So that is just a high-level overview of how you would to proceed when building and starting out with your SaaS app. I just created this overview to give you some ideas if you are stuck, or to remind you of some pain points you need to consider. If you want me really to build this out, or if you're interested in certain parts, like how would I manage to have a landing page on this server and under a subdomain have a page on the other server, how would I do the routing, how would I do the security groups,